Welcome back to the Lounge by Travefy. I'm Stephanie Grice, and today we're talking about how to sustain peak performance during wave season without burning out. Because this time of year can bring incredible opportunities, maybe more inquiries, more momentum, more clients ready to plan. But for others, it can sometimes feel slower than expected or harder to gain traction and just uncertain where to focus next. But in both of those cases, wave season asks a lot of you, not just operationally, but mentally and emotionally. The advisors who navigate it best aren't just doing more, they're protecting their energy, they're setting clear boundaries, and creating structure that helps them show up consistently for their clients and their business. So today we are talking about what that actually looks like and how to build habits that support that sustainable success during wave season and beyond. Now, I'm joined by Stacey Cabell, a 14-year veteran of the industry who brings a powerful perspective on helping advisors protect their energy, care for themselves, and continue to grow. So welcome to the lounge, Stacey. I'm so excited you're here for this episode.
Thank you so much. This is such an exciting episode to be on, and I'm so honored to be on the podcast, especially with you and all that great energy that you share. I love it.
Oh, thank you. And hey, and this is all about, we were talking right before this is all about protecting all that energy.
Yeah.
Because as much as you give out, you kind of have to get it back into.
You do. You do.
I'm ready to learn a trick or two today. So I'm excited for this. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation because, again, we're not just talking about how to sustain and grow a business, but really just how do you support yourself while doing it? And this is something that just doesn't get enough attention. I mean, when I first came to you and was like, Stacey, I think this would be a really good, we should talk about something with wave season. And you brought forth the idea and said, hey, something you're seeing is people burn out and we don't want that to happen. So I'm really excited for this conversation. But before we get into some of these questions on this topic, can you just share a bit more about your journey in the industry and just why this topic is just so important to you?
Absolutely. So when I first started in the industry, I was brand new to travel in general. I was coming from a medical background. And when I first started, everything was all about helping others with their travel. And it was my dream come true to create those memories for others. But very quickly into owning the agency, I started realizing one of my real passions was really helping other agents grow their business. And from doing that, I really noticed a lot of gaps in what we're about to talk about today. You know, we're always taught about going, and getting to the next goal line. And one of my passions was really understanding how the agent or the advisor thinks while they're going through that busy season. So it's been quite a progression from going from one side, client facing to agent facing. Very long story. That's for another podcast. But it's been quite a journey of me learning probably not just what works, but also what doesn't work. And I think there's a lot of value when we start sharing maybe some of even the mistakes that we've had along the way of protecting ourselves and protecting our energy.
No, for sure. And that's so true. And that's why I'm really excited again for this episode specifically, because we do always talk about like grind, work hard. Mm-hmm. This is gonna, it's not easy. Otherwise everyone would do it. So It does require a lot of energy from you, but it also is very important to sustain your everything for yourself too. And also with wave season, because wave season gets talked about as, this huge opportunity of the year. But again, it's with that comes that it's not always very sustainable. Right. So right now, what are you seeing and hearing, and what are advisors really experiencing right now?
So in my world, is there a normal wave season like there was pre-COVID, right? So every year since 2020, wave season, in my experience, has been drastically different. We've gone from 2020, getting those bookings wherever we can, wherever they came in from, to 2021 and 2022 to things starting to open back up and there being no such thing as a wave season. I'm still talking to advisors that are seeing things all over the board where they just have not stopped since everything has started back up, to things now finally coming down a little bit and having the general wave season that we're used to, which is, generally January through April. So I'm kind of seeing things all across the board. But one thing that, regardless of it's, they're always busy or they're only just becoming busy now in this, typical wave season, is that burnout. And that, how can I work all day long and still be able to be a mom to my children or be a good spouse to my significant other? So I think that the topic is something that bringing to the forefront is going to be very helpful, regardless of where your wave season is right now, whether you're crazy busy or you're just dying down. I think that what we're going to talk about is going to be very beneficial to everyone involved.
For sure. And even if you're listening to this episode and it's,
August,
yeah, and it's like still relevant,
still
completely
100% relevant. Absolutely. It does not have to be wave season. Wave season doesn't have a normalcy still, in my opinion. We're still, every year is so completely different what we're dealing with. So I think this is a relevant topic that we can talk about all year long.
100%. I completely agree. And the first, one of the questions I have for you here is, because I feel like a lot of times you can start to sense internally when you're like maybe burning out.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't come to the forefront of your mind sometimes, but what would you say are the earliest signs that an advisor is really heading towards burnout, even if they're not realizing it yet?
And I love the way that you premise that, even if they're not noticing it yet, because burnout's a scary thing. It typically kind of sneaks in. It doesn't just show up and say, hey, I'm here to shut things down. It kind of messes with you. So you've got those physical symptoms. You've got your fatigue and your exhaustion, your brain fog. I mean, I know a lot of people that are listening to this are going to be like, brain fog, yes, that's me. But you've also got different types of things that kind of sneak in, like maybe you start leading with fear instead of vision. Maybe you start discounting your services. Maybe you maybe you stop really replying as quickly as you do, or maybe you just have lost some of the excitement that you bring to the table every time you meet with a client. And that's the scary thing. You've got little tiny symptoms that if you're not familiar with them and you're not familiar with burnout, period, it can kind of get lost in the mix. And then when you do realize it's burnout, typically when you're sure that it's burnout, it's like right there in your face and it's a little too late. I don't know how many of you have suffered like severe burnout cases, but it can sometimes take weeks, months, or even a year to kind of get over a severe case of burnout, for sure.
Yeah, and that is such a scary thing.
It is.
So yeah, and like knowing the signs, actually, when you even just start saying it, I'm sure there's people listening who are like, oh,
right?
My goodness, that's happening.
Oh, that's
yeah,
me.
like that. Yeah, it's happening. And I was going to ask you too, like, how does it really show up in the business or client experience? And you kind of said a couple that make a lot of sense, that you might not answer your emails as fast. You're just not feeling excited. And what are some other things that truly do start showing up in the business side of things?
Really important things like resentment. And I'm a big proponent of utilizing my own mistakes and experiences. And I had gone through burnout a couple of years ago. And one of the main things that really was a huge detour for me was resentment. Resentment towards your clients. Ooh, look at that. Resentment towards your clients, resentment towards just the business in general. And when you lose that passion, it's very hard to get back. And we are in an industry where 99% of us are working through passion. It starts showing up in maybe you're losing the wow factor to what made you stand out as an advisor. Maybe you're not giving that itinerary your all. Maybe you're not adding those extras like the special dining recommendations that you would make. Maybe it then seeps into your personal life and you start, biting off the heads of the people around you. So there are quite a few really detrimental things that can happen in your business and in your personal life when you let it get too far.
Yeah, it is really, and it just impacts so much. It's kind of crazy when we talk about like self-care. You just say the word and you think about or protecting your energy, but it
Right.
actually is such a slippery slope that really starts to impact. And like you said, it can take years. It can take a year. It can take a really long
Yes.
time to come back from, which is really, I mean, it's crazy, but it's so true when you think about it. And so, what do you think that advisors who protect their energy often perform better long term? Like,
Oh,
why is that? Like, what are you seeing them do? Are they recognizing? I guess that's a first sign. Recognize it first.
one of my favorite words in the business is acknowledgement, because when you can acknowledge what you're going through, you're 50% better off because you know what you're dealing with. And I think that advisors that are successful with getting through protecting their space, what are some of the things that they're doing? They're setting clear boundaries. I think that they play a really big part in our industry. How many of us feel like they have to answer every single email, every single call, all hours of the day, right? And when you're not protecting your boundaries, you're not protecting your space. And I've got news for you. Answering a call at 10 p.m. does not offer value. Your expertise offers value, right? So setting boundaries is not an awful thing. So advisors that are really protecting their space and they're successful further out, they're protecting their boundaries. They're doing things like, one of my favorite things that really helped me was getting an emergency phone. So a lot of advisors that I've spoken to recently, they have one cell phone, they leave it on all night long. And I don't know about you, but even just with social media, like my phone will go off all night long, with the stuff that's attached to it. So having a secondary cell phone at night, being able to turn off my personal phone and say, all right, if there are any emergencies, this phone's going to ring and this phone only. Having that kind of rest and separation from your business so you can have that personal time with your family or your relaxation. And, those are kind of the things that we're seeing successful agents really harness in order to get through not just the wave season, but the industry in general. We are running all of the time. If we're not sitting at our desk 15 hours a day, then we're running through a country, running through a conference, running through a FAM. So being able to say, all right, I also have to have that chunk of time for my rest and relaxation. I think that's really what's propelling people further than the people that think they have to be available all the time. I know I went
Yes.
through a whole tangent, didn't I? I went from
No.
one space to another.
I love it though. It's so good. Those are really good tips. And I have to say too, whenever we go to like conferences, like on the supplier side, it's like, yeah, sure, it's very busy, it's very exhausting. But it's honestly, I think about the advisors every time. I'm like, I don't know how you're doing it, to be honest, because you still have clients on the other end. At least
Right.
I'm here. This is my job. So like this is fine. And so for them, so it's a lot. And what do you see like what maybe you've done or what you've seen successful advisors do, where do they tell their clients when they're working with them like, hey, these are the hours I'm available? Or is it also setting those expectations like, hey, don't answer that email during these times? And I've even seen people where I'll get an automatic email reply that they just have set up all the time that lists and say, I received this, here's when I'm, or if you have an emergency. And I've seen things like that, but are there any like tips or tactics that you've seen work really well?
I love that you brought up an example like a conference, right? Because as a travel advisor, you're going to a conference to learn, you're going to a conference to strengthen your network for your clients. But at the same time, you see all these advisors working while they're at the conference, listening, trying to really still do their job and also work on their business instead of in their business. Then at night, we've got all these functions, but then they're going back to their room and they're doing more work. And what I love to tell them is, listen, it's not going to kill you to step away for a little while. You have to be able to work on your business and not in your business. So what's worked for us in our agency for things like that is what we would call a travel buddy. So if we had an agent that was going to a conference or a FAM, maybe they were even going on vacation with their family, they would connect with another advisor and say, listen, I've got this many trips that are coming up. I would really love to be able to get my people connected to you in case there's an emergency while I'm out so I can focus my time on XYZ. Listen, sometimes you have to take the call. There's too much of a big emergency that maybe your travel buddy can't handle, or maybe there's a giant booking on the line that you've really been working on very hard. I understand that. But when you can also kind of let go of some of that control and ask someone else for help so you can focus, that's only going to set you up for success, honestly. And the boundary thing is another thing I really want to touch on. So setting boundaries with your clients, I think that we forget that it's going to also show your client you respect yourself and your time. We're so accustomed to being like, you can contact me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What does that show your clients? Number one, it shows them, you're desperate for their business and that you don't value your own sanity. But when you create a realistic boundary. Now it has to be realistic. You can't be like, I work 7 to 10 in the morning, Monday and Tuesday, and I'm off, all throughout the week. When you set a realistic boundary right from the start with your clients, it actually creates a respect, in my opinion, between you and the client.
Yeah. No, I think that is huge. And do you ever see, like, when you're talking about like building those structural habits and those routines, do a lot of times did you do this, or do you see other advisors where they kind of just put time on their calendars and they try to, like, I always wonder, like, productivity things. Yeah. Like, what are some tips of that? Because I personally need those too. I mean, it's really hard. There's so much in personal and in your work. Using your calendar can help, but I just need to do it sometimes. So I'd love to hear your tips.
I love this so much. And I wish I could tell you I did it a very long time ago, but I just started recently over the last few years doing time blocking, not just for my business, but when you can add personal things like maybe an hour to listen to your Audible book. I have an online book club that I absolutely love. It's my happy place. And because of my schedule, I can't always fit in an hour of listening. And I'm not going to listen to my Audible books while I'm working because I don't absorb what they're saying. So what I'll do is I'll set an hour on my business schedule for something like listening to my Audible book. Sometimes I'll even block my lunch out, and I treat it just as important as I would if me and you were recording this podcast right now, because I matter that much. And when you can do that and block that into your time, and you kind of get into that habit that, all right, this is my schedule, this is what I'm sticking to, your time matters just as much as the business time does. So highly, highly recommend time blocking with your personal stuff too, because that way you start respecting yourself just as much as you respect everybody else's time.
Ooh, mic drop. I love that. You matter, because I was literally thinking as you were saying that, because I do the same thing. And you know how many times I end up being like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing a couple of things here. And then my lunch hour's done.
And then
I didn't do anything.
And then you're like 5 hours in and it's over. And
and then you get angry because you're like, I don't have any time to do this. And so it's like, and it is funny because I've noticed that with myself too. It actually happened today where I did listen to a book. I was like, just step away for a little bit, just listen to your audiobook. And I was like, wow, that was really nice. And now I feel okay to come back in the right headspace. Like, it's true. It works.
So it's so true. And it's crazy because it sounds so simple. It sounds so simple that people are almost like, well, if it was that simple, it would just already be working, right? But until you implement it and you start really living it, it's life changing. So it's something that I definitely live by in today's world. You matter. I love that you said it. You matter. You block it on your schedule, and you treat your time just as important as you would for a client.
That's correct. Yes, you do matter. I love that. So many mic
We
drops
need
already.
a t-shirt
in
that
this.
says you matter.
Yes.
I think that should be on a Travefy t-shirt, Stephanie.
I do like that. I will chat with the team.
I think we need to collab with this.
And it's like hashtag block on the calendar.
Yes, I love it.
So good. And well, we've already been talking about all this, so we've kind of been covering a lot of this, but I did want to talk a little bit about sustainable sales energy, because again, we're a lot of times in these discussions, we're always talking about, here are some tips for growing your business and all of that. And we're kind of looking at it through a different lens of just take care of yourself, and you'll see that in everything else. But how does an advisor's energy and mindset directly influence their ability to sell and serve clients? Because we've kind of been talking about it, but let's just bring it back again.
Clients can feel your certainty. They can feel your energy, right? So when you sound unsure or you sound unrelaxed and you're kind of chaotic, they can feel that. So right off the bat, that matters. And something that I feel like doesn't get talked enough about in our industry is confidence. And a lot of us need to have, not a lot of us, all of us need some kind of confidence, right? We're dealing with clients, we're closing a sale at the end of the day. This is a sales job, right? So confidence is I don't want to say underrated, but misunderstood. And you need to have the confidence in yourself to be able to say to clients, listen, I might not know about this destination, but I have so many resources at my fingertips. In today's world, we have suppliers, we've got BDMs, tourism boards, so much knowledge, right? So you can have that confidence, and confidence really does shine through. And I know this is kind of off the beaten path of burnout that we're talking about, but I truly feel that sustainability, as far as mindset being directly affected, is really standing strong in your confidence. All of the mindset work, it all connects with confidence at the end of the day. So you need to be rested and relaxed. You need to be able to harness the power of knowing, listen, if I'm not confident about what I'm doing, my clients are going to feel it. So, if I don't know about a destination, or if I'm not going to be in the office tomorrow because I'm going to be away at the spot, it's okay. It's okay to say it. Clients understand you're human. Your confidence will grow as you start doing these things. I like to think of confidence as a muscle. The more you use it, the more it grows. And confidence in this position that, we have in the travel industry, it's really everything. So totally different kind of sidetracked away from, the burnout part. But I think that has a lot to do with it.
That is great on the confidence. Now, I'm going to ask you something here on more habits. I just love little tactical tips here. What are a few small habits that advisors can use and take with them to have that confidence? Because I think it's not a tangent, it's a good one, because it goes into this. And what are some of those little habit builders that they can, have to really start building that up?
Something that I love truly, and we didn't plan to talk about confidence, right? But so this wasn't planned this way, but I always have my journal by me, and I kind of want to talk about why the journal helps with confidence. I like to try to write at least weekly. I try to really write daily in it, but it ends up sometimes being weekly. Things that happen throughout the week that were small wins for me. Whether it's I landed a client that I was working really hard on. Now, this was back in my travel advisor days, or I connected with someone that I had been trying to connect with that I was too afraid to reach out to, or whatever. And what I love to do is a couple months later down the road, go back and read throughout my progression. And when you do that and you keep kind of like the progress notes of where you're going, what you're going through, you then can celebrate wins that maybe weren't so in your face at the time, right? Because as you step away and you start reading, you're like, wow, I did this. I forgot I did this. Or, oh gosh, I remember when this kind of not great thing happened, but look, I got over it. And then I did this other great thing. So honestly, celebrating your wins, that's where I'm going. I know, long tangent. Celebrating your wins is momentum building. The more you can say to yourself, and you can step back and say, look, I did this regardless of the size of it. That builds confidence when you can see that you did it. And for a lot of us, I don't know if we have a selective memory, or some of us are just so used to not celebrating ourselves. When you have it written in a book, right, you can go back and read it and you could say, all right, I did that. So celebrating your wins is so huge to build your confidence. Truly, I really believe that.
I love that. That is awesome.
Thank you.
See, yeah, we did not know we were going to talk about this on this. And I am so glad we went there, because that is really important. It's so noticeable. I mean, it's crazy how something feels so big right now,
Right.
Whether it's positive or a negative, and
Right.
you really think, and then you're going to look back and you forget about it. It is actually really crazy when you start to think about it.
Yep.
And you look back, and I think, yeah, daily, even if you're just going monthly and you're writing that stuff in, and that's pretty a good idea. I like that a lot.
And it takes you back, just like you said, sometimes we forget the feeling. So to be able to read it, when you can write it, I like to try to write as quickly as I can if something huge happens, because then when I go back to it, I'm taken immediately back to how I felt in the moment. And again, it doesn't have to be huge. It could be something as little as, I got up today and I went to my desk even after I had a horrific day yesterday. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're celebrating that progress. That's what is going to build that confidence, really.
Oh, that is super cool. I love that. Now, another question that I have here is okay, so I want to talk about like tools and systems and different things that you can use, because it goes really well, actually, because
Yes.
the journaling, that is one of them. But I was going to ask, how can different tools and systems play a role in protecting an advisor's energy, preventing burnout, building confidence? So just bring that in too. What are some other really great ways that you can use something else, like something to help you with that?
I truly believe that when you can reduce the chaos from everyday life, your business is just going to run smoother. And systems are something that I've been teaching our advisors when I own the agency for quite some time, because a system could be as little as, okay, I do my social media every day. So now I'm going to, implement sitting down, doing it monthly and doing it in this order. Or writing a welcome email, instead of writing it over and over and over, creating a template for it. And this is totally organic. And I don't want to sound cliche because we're having, a podcast together, but for me, in our business, Travefy saved not just my life, but really the agents' lives. So a lot of our agents were brand new to the travel industry. I liked to hire on travel experience, like personal travel experience. I wanted somebody that got stuck at the airport and missed their connection, so they knew the empathy part to, help their clients. And with that, hiring and bringing on newly non-experienced agents, there's a lot for them to learn. And even for me, it was a lot to learn. So being able to utilize some of the things in Travefy, and, there's 5 million tools that we could get into. But honestly, some of the most time-saving ones for our agents are the automation of the the intake forms, or, your final balance is coming up, or, hey, bon voyage. These are the emails that they're constantly having to send over and over again. Why do they constantly need to retype them and take all the time in the world when they can start just implementing those habits and having that organization and the time that it's going to save them? That was what we needed and what was missing. So about 3 years ago, and I don't even know if you know this because we haven't talked about this, but about 3 years ago, I started implementing in our agency that everyone had to have a Travefy account. So in the beginning, it was tough because it was a new system and we were nervous, but my gosh, I can't even tell you the success stories that we have had. So I sold the agency in September, and one of my best friends who owns another travel agency, Trisha Scott, purchased Star Stuff Travel. She's going to run it same way that, it has been wonderful. And not only did she absolutely adore that the Star Stuff people were using Travefy, what her and her existing team learned from that time saving, she started implementing it into her agency. And that's how you know something works. When you can have somebody say, you know what? I love that. I want to copy that over here with my other team. That's when you know that you're onto something, right? So yes, there's a million tools I could tell you about with social media and all of that. But what saved our agency was Travefy, and having the automation of, you book something, you get it right into the system. The moment you work on it for, half an hour of getting everything set up, you're done. And the time that you're saving, that's what people need to understand. It's that time you're getting back. It's priceless. It's priceless.
Yeah, dang. We did not tell her to say that.
I know. That's why I said, listen, this has got to be a disclaimer, because I don't want somebody thinking like, oh, this is a paid thing, but it's real. It's real.
That's so cool. And honestly, that is what we talk about. Sometimes, honestly, we forget, because especially, I do a lot of like educating on how to use Travefy, and we kind of come sometimes like feature first. We're like, oh, you can do this and this and this. How cool is that? But you're right. You got to come back to the why is that helpful? It's because you're getting time back with your family, or to do this, to work on a different side of your business that's going to make it continuously grow. And that's what it is. And so that's so cool. It's so cool that we do live in 2026, where there's all this software
thank God.
All this stuff. There's so much. There's just continuously so much more that you can implement and use that helps you. So
it's evolving. And I have to say, as I was selling my agency, don't think I didn't notice that Travefy continuously is evolving as well. So now that I haven't been in my agency for a couple months, I'm like, I got to see what else is going on with Travefy. What are they doing now? Because as I was exiting, the commission part was evolving, and that, as an owner, life-changing. That was life-changing for me. That really, really gave me time.
Well, and it's funny too that you say that, because anyone listening, if you are an agency owner, or if you're agency owner that, is looking for something, that's actually exactly why we started doing that, because we started feeling the pain points of the agency owner side, not just the individual travel advisor trying to, get more clients, get more leads. It was really like your side trying to get, people trained, using a system all together, getting those commissions. Right. And that's what you'll see a pattern of that this year too, because we're trying to solve those problems, those pain points that will help make your life better. So,
and the fact that I think the biggest thing for me too is that we're in one system. We're not all over the place. We have now learned one system to do pretty much 90% of our work during the day. So when you have that ability to have that one system, it also alleviates the burnout, because you're not all over the place. And that really was a game changer for us, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, So awesome. And man, I think we might have to have you on again, by the way, because I really want to dig into more all of those all the things you can do, because there's
Oh,
just so much out there that can help.
yes.
It's pretty cool. And but I do want to ask you though, one of the final questions here is, what's one thing an advisor listening today could implement where they can immediately make wave season and beyond feel more manageable? Honestly, their day to day, even if it's past wave season right now when they're listening.
I'm going to say something that I think that not enough advisors are doing, and that's setting boundaries. You deserve it. What did we say? We're going to make that t-shirt. You deserve
Yes,
it.
I know.
You know, listen, a boundary isn't saying I don't want to help you. A boundary is saying I want to help you, but I also respect my time. So I really think that if there's anything that I can give advice for when you're going through a busy season, whether it's wave season or it's just crazy in your business right now, set some boundaries and take some time for yourself. The business is still going to be there. You're not going to create a sustainable business in chaos, and you deserve the time. So definitely setting boundaries.
Oh, I love that. You are not going to create a sustainable business in chaos.
No.
Boom.
Boom.
Another t-shirt.
Yes.
There it is.
I think
Bumper
I think
sticker
me
t-shirt.
and Stephanie are opening up a t-shirt shop after this.
Yeah. TravelAdvisorsT-shirts.com.
Yes, I think that it could be a big seller.
Yes, I know. It's just good reminders. I think these are just such good reminders. And I do want to give you space too, if there's anything else that you think that we haven't covered, miss, but also where can everyone find you at? Because I think if everyone, like, big Stacey fans here, she's really awesome. I feel like you
Aw.
just have so many great things to share. So where can we find more?
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So my passion is really growing and helping travel advisors. So all of my social media is fully dedicated to the travel industry. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can look for me on LinkedIn and my website, staceycabell.com. If you go to my website, staceycabell.com, that way you can find all of my social media over there. If you go to my website, you can actually register for my newsletter, and my newsletter is full of advice and tips. And again, a lot of the experience that I share doesn't always just come from my wins. I like to think of myself, I'm a huge reality fan, so this is kind of embarrassing. There's a TV show on MTV called The Challenge. I don't know how many people are reality TV fans, but in the show, The Challenge, they're on a team and somebody is always going first, having to do this challenge, and all the other teammates waiting to go second and third are like saying, all right, what worked for this person? What didn't work for this person? And they're implementing it into their strategy so they can go further. Well, I'm the person that went first. I made all those mistakes. All the things that worked, and all the bad things that didn't. And I'm able to share those. So I really feel like there's a lot of great education in the things that I share. And I only want to help this industry grow to be the best that it can, because it's just such a passion of mine. I love this industry. So please follow, and anything I can do to help anybody at any time, I always have an open door.
Oh, thank you so much. That's amazing. And I'll make sure to put that link and your social media in the show notes as well. Yeah, because really, really cool stuff. And I love this conversation so much, because again, wave season can be one of the most exciting times of the year, but it doesn't have to come at the cost of your energy,
Yes.
or your focus, or your long-term sustainability. So very important. And when you create those right boundaries, build those supportive habits, surround yourself with the tools and systems that reduce that mental load, you give yourself the space to do your best work, not just during wave season, but all year long. So thank you so much again, Stacey, for sharing your perspective,
Thank you.
practical advice with our listeners. It's really, really cool. I'm sure there's some of us who is about to go get a journal and just keep it by your side all the time now, or even use your phone notes. I'm going to start doing that. It's a really good tip.
And if somebody gets a journal, I want a picture. I want them to send me a picture in my DMs. If they get a journal, I want them to tag me or send it in a DM. I want to see it, because I'm telling you, it may sound silly, but this has been so crucial to my my mental health to really say, like, Stacey, look at everything you overcame. Remember all those things that were not so great, or look at the big things you did. So I want to see it if you do it.
That is super cool. Yes, but do that, and then Stacey, you'll have to share with us too. You'll have to let
I
us
would
know
love
how
to.
that is really cool. I love that. And thank you so much again. And thank you for joining us on here on the Lounge by Travefy. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations designed to help you grow your business and a career that you're so proud of. But thank you again, and we will catch you all on the next flight.